As many of you will know, I haven't been using Linux for very long. I'm still pretty new to it, honestly, but I have been gaming for over 40 years across just about every platform out there. When I made the move to Linux, I expected gaming to be complicated. I thought I'd spend a lot of time troubleshooting or that I'd constantly be searching for native ports. And I was fully prepared to give up some gains. In fact, I walked away from titles like Apex Legends and Delta Force because of the anti-cheat compatibility issues. So no dual booting, no exceptions. I wanted a clean break from Windows and I haven't looked back. Everything I've played since then has just worked through Proton or Wine, either directly through Steam or using Lutris for games that run through launchers like Ubisoft Connect, EA or Battlestate. And that got me thinking, if games run this well without native support, is Proton actually a Linux lifeline for indie game developers? At first, I assumed native support would always be the better option. Faster, more stable, more correct. But in practice, I haven't needed it. Not once. If anything, the only issues I've run into have been with the launchers or anti-cheat, not the games themselves. Digging a bit deeper, I started to understand why a lot of small studios don't release native Linux builds. Supporting Linux natively means testing across multiple distros, or dealing with dependency hell, debugging issues that might only affect a tiny percentage of players, and packaging and support that adds time and cost. For small indie teams or solo devs, that's a lot. Proton and Wine make it possible to run Windows games on Linux by translating DirectX and Windows system calls into Linux-friendly equivalents. And Proton in particular, backed by Valve, has come such a long way. In many cases, games just work, sometimes better than on Windows setups. For indie devs, this means they don't have to build a Linux version from scratch just to reach the Linux audience. Sorry for the interruption, but Marco over at Stray Fawn Studio gave me a free key to play The Wandering Village, which is the game footage that is in this video. If you're into city builders with a twist, go and check it out in the description below. Oh, and by the way, they have a Linux native version. From what I have learned, developers don't need to do a full Linux port, but apparently there are a few small choices that might make their games run better through Proton, like using engines that already behave well in Wine, such as Unity or Unreal, or avoiding certain anti-cheat systems or DRM that tends to break compatibility. I've noticed that games using common engines usually run smoother right away, so it made me wonder, if a developer just checks how their game performs in Proton during testing, would that be enough? I'm not a developer, so I can't say for sure, but it feels like there's a middle ground here, where the game isn't fully supported on Linux but still runs great, and honestly that's all I've needed so far. If you're a developer or know more about this kind of testing, I'd love to hear how common or realistic that approach actually is. Linux still makes up a very small slice of the market, but that slice of the market tends to be active, loyal and engaged. Plus there's a Steam Deck, which obviously runs on Linux. So if your game works well with Proton, it's not just reaching desktop users, it's almost Steam Deck ready too. Of course, working on the Steam Deck isn't just about launching. Controller support matters too. If the game is designed with only mouse and keyboard in mind, it might run fine technically, but still be frustrating to play on the deck. But that's okay. Getting it running well on Proton is already a great start, and it opens the door to more players giving it a try, even if full deck optimization comes later. So, is Proton a Linux lifeline for indie devs? Well, from what I've learned so far, yeah, it kind of is. It lowers the barrier to entry, it keeps things simple, and it gives small developers a way to support Linux without splitting their resources across multiple platforms. It's not about cutting corners, it's about being realistic and reaching more players. If you've got experience as a developer, or if you've had good or bad experiences gaming with Linux or Proton, I'd love to hear more about it in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.